Breaking news. Tech giants continue cost-cutting measures as economic uncertainty persists. Investors are rewarding companies willing to make difficult decisions. The question now, who's next?
Good morning. Thank you all for making this meeting priority one. I know we all had other obligations for today, but none of them matter more than what we're about to discuss. This meeting will determine whether Titan Global survives Q4. Not metaphorically, not as a hyperbole. This is an existential conversation. Let's go around the table. State your name, your role, and your primary concern coming into this room. Michaela, let's start with you.
Michaela Nelson, Chief Human Resources Officer. My primary concern is that we might be making decisions about people's lives with incomplete information about the long-term impact on not only our culture, but the retention.
Noted. Jameer?
Jameer Withersby, Chief Financial Officer. So my main concern is that we're reacting to market pressure without fully modeling both scenarios. Long-term retention, layoffs versus retention. We need to understand which path actually stabilizes us in the long run.
Fair. Okay. Pierre?
Pierre Malone, Chief Operations Officer. I'm concerned that whatever decision we make, we haven't planned the operational execution. Layoffs just aren't about numbers. They're about workflow, disruption, production delays, and system integrity.
Q3 results came in 14% below target. We missed revenue projections by $890 million. Our operating costs are climbing while our margins shrink. We have 47 days of cash runway left before we breach our loan covenants. Here's what our competitors did. Amazon announced September 28th, 9,000 layoffs. Stock jumped 8% within 2 weeks. Microsoft followed October 3rd. They saw a $45 billion market cap increase. Google went public October 10th, 6% climb. The pattern is clear. Markets reward efficiency, not emotion.
Justin, I need to push back on that framing. Markets reward the appearance of efficiency, but efficiency without empathy just destroys long-term trust. We're not just talking about stock prices. We're talking about institutional knowledge, team cohesion, and brand reputation.
I understand that perspective, Michaela. Brand reputation doesn't pay our investors. Trust doesn't satisfy loan covenants. We can rebuild culture. We cannot rebuild from bankruptcy.
Yeah, can I add on, please? We're already seeing production delays in 3 of our 5 regions. Lead times are up to 19% from Q2. If we cut without staff, understanding workflow dependencies, we could be looking at a system-wide collapse, not efficiency gains.
Which is why we're having this meeting. Jameer, let's get the financial picture on the table and give us the numbers.
All right, let me walk you through both models. Our current monthly operating cost is $1.8 billion. 72% of that is labor. If we do nothing, we're projecting a negative EBITDA of $340 million by the end of Q1 2026. That triggers our debt covenants, which means our lenders can call the loans. If that happens, we're in default. Now, if we process that with layoffs specifically, a reduction of 300,000 employees, we save approximately $1.4 billion annually. That stabilizes cash flows, keeps us covenant compliant, and gives us breathing room to restructure operations.
And what about the cost of losing institutional knowledge? The cost of rehiring when market returns? In fact, the cost of severance packages, legal fees, and reputational damage.
Okay, yeah, valid questions entirely. Severance upfront would cost us roughly 180 to 200 million upfront. Legal and HR admin costs another roughly 15 billion. But even accounting for that, we're netting positive 1.2 billion annually. As for institutional knowledge and rehiring costs, that's a little harder to quantify. Historically, companies that execute layoffs see about a 15% drop in productivity and morale in the first quarter alone. but by Q2, most recover the baseline. Some even exceed prior performances because remaining staff are higher performers who take on expanded roles.
That's a cold way to describe 30,000 people losing their way of income.
It is, but it's also accurate. I am not here to make anyone feel comfortable, Michaela. I'm here to present the math. And the math says we either act now or we risk losing everything, including the jobs of 70,000 employees we're so desperately trying to save right now.
Jameer, I need clarification. If we execute layoffs, what is the operational downtime? How long before we're back to full capacity?
Pierre, that is your domain entirely. I can do workflow production, but operation and impact on operations is entirely your duty.
Okay, so let me tell you, if we cut 30,000 people in 1 quarter without a transformation plan, we're looking to about 14 days without production. That's lost revenue, missed contracts, and penalties for late delivery. So before we celebrate 1.4 billion in savings, we need to subtract the cost in operational paralysis.
This is why we're not cutting without a plan. We're not reaching, we're strategizing. But let's not pretend that keeping everyone on payroll is a strategy. It's a wish, and wishes don't survive board meetings.
Okay, let me break down option A in detail, okay? So this right here is a layoff, okay? Now, we're gonna be reducing our employee count by about 30,000, okay? Our priority right now is to get rid of our redundant roles, our underperforming segments, and the non-revenue functions, okay? That's immediately gonna give us about 1.4 billion annually off the rip. Additionally, we wanna reduce our office space by about 20 to 30%, which is gonna save us another $67 million annually in real estate costs alone. Now, we consolidate vendor contracts, we negotiate supplier agreements under a leaner structure, and we streamline our IT infrastructure. Combined, we're looking at a total of 1.5 billions in savings annually.
And what about retention risk? If we lay off 30,000 of our current employees, how many of our top performers will leave voluntarily because they see the writing on the wall?
Good question, good question. So industry data suggests that post-layoff environments see around a 10 to 12 voluntary attrition rate among high performers within 6 months. For us, that can be losing another 7,000 to 8,000 employees who we actually want to keep.
So we're not just talking about 30,000 jobs. We're talking about the potential exodus of 38,000 to 40,000 of our employees.
Potentially, but that assumes that we don't implement any retention strategies, bonuses, equities, incentives, clear communication about stability. If we do this right, we can minimize voluntary attrition.
And if we do nothing, Jameer, walk us through option B.
Okay. Option B. So option B, we retain all of our current staff and attempt to ride out this downturn. In this scenario, we're going to maintain our current operation costs of about 1.8 billion per month. Given our revenue trajectory, we'll burn the remaining cash reserves by mid-January-ish. At that point, we're going to breach our loan covenants. Once we're in breach, our credit rating drops from the BBB to junk status. That means our cost of borrowing skyrockets, if we can borrow at all. Vendors would demand cash up front instead of net 30 or net 60 terms. Our ability to operate grinds to a halt.
So what's the timelines to bankruptcy in this scenario?
Okay. If we breach covenants in January and can't secure emergency financing, we're filing Chapter 11 by March. Maybe April if we sell off assets, but at that point, we're not talking about layoffs, we're talking about liquidation.
So the choice is to lay off 30,000 now or risk losing all 100,000 jobs in the next 6 months?
Yeah, that's the stark reality of it, yes.
So then the decision is obvious.
But nothing about it is really obvious. We're talking about destroying people's lives to protect the stock price.
I'm talking about protecting 70,000 jobs by sacrificing 30,000. That's not cruelty, that's mathematics.
One more data point before we move forward. This chart shows 6 major companies' stats after a market layoff. Overall increase, 6.8% market-wide over the last 90 days. Post-recovery time, about a 90-day downtime. The market is showing us what it wants. The question is, are we willing to listen?
Before we move forward, I need the three of you to understand something. I'm not arguing because I'm oblivious about our financial situation. I understand the numbers. I understand the payoff. I understand the process. However, I don't think you understand that these are human beings we are talking about at the end of the day. and we haven't fully accounted for that. Let me tell you about 3 real people who work for us. 3 human beings, not some data points on y'all scatter plots. First off, Maria Garcias, a 42-year-old single mother of not 1, but 2 children, who relocated from Phoenix to Houston, Texas 6 months ago to take in the role of logistics advisor. Okay, we took her to Titan Global because we were told to her that we were stable. She sold her house, moved her kids to new schools, and took on a higher cost of living for this. Second, Daniel Park, 29, Army veteran. He joined Titan after 2 tours in Afghanistan because we specifically recruited him and promised career development. He's been here 8 months, y'all, 8 months, and he's finally starting to feel like he has a future. And this is what we're putting on the table? Third, Renee Thompson, a 34-year-old. She just returned from parental leave 3 weeks ago, and she's balancing a newborn and a career. She's one of our top performing project managers, and we're thinking about letting that go. If we execute these layoffs, do we send Maria, Daniel, and Renee? What messages do we send to everybody else who believed in this company as well?
We send the message that we adapt or die. Michaela, I hear you. I do. But let me ask you a question. If we don't lay off 30,000 employees and we go bankrupt in 6 months, what message do we send Maria, Daniel, and Renee? What do we tell them when we're liquidating assets and shutting down operations entirely? You want to talk about human cost? Let's talk about 100,000 people losing their jobs. Let's talk about families with 0 income, 0 benefits, and 0 prospects because their company collapsed instead of making a hard decision.
That's false binary, Justin. We're not choosing between 30,000 layoffs and total bankruptcy. There are middle paths, phase reductions, voluntary separation packages, early retirement incentives, salary cuts across leadership.
Which buys us what? 6 weeks? 2 months? You're offering Band-Aids for a hemorrhage.
Hold on, you guys, just please hold on. You guys both are right. We do need to act decisively. We do need to act humanly. But what I'm not hearing is the plan that actually executes the vision. Jameer, if we do this operation sequence, day 1, we notify 3,000 people. Day 2, what? IT access revoked, badge deactivation. How do we prevent workflow collapse?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And honestly, we haven't mapped that part out yet. That's a really big decision we need to decide right now, being, do we do this all in one wave or do we go about this in a 90-day phase?
Phased, absolutely phased. If you cut 30,000 people in one day, you'll create panic. Remaining employees will assume their next productivity will crater. You'll trigger the exact voluntary problem we just discussed.
But phased cuts extend uncertainty. Markets hate uncertainty. Investors want clean, decisive action.
Actually, Justin, there's precedence for phase cuts being received positively, as long as we communicate clearly what we're doing. Microsoft's 2023 layoffs were executed over 4 months with transparent timelines, and their stock still climbed because investors saw it, were able to capitalize off of it, and seen it as a strategic strategy to react and grow.
Fine, phase cuts, 90 days. But that means we need a detailed timeline, communication strategy, and severance framework. And we need it this week.
Plus, operationally, if we're cutting down 30,000 roles, we need to ensure continuity. That means exit interviews, knowledge transfer sessions, and documentation. The Titan Next Step program could be a framework that ensures we capture critical information before people leave.
All right, let's model it. Jameer, run the numbers. What does option A look like with a phased 90-day reduction and a 20 million transition program?
All right, give me a second. Okay. Phase cuts over 90 days, about 200 million in severance alone, 20 million for transitional support, 15 million in admin and legal costs. Total upfront costs, 235 million. Annual savings, 1.4 billion. Net savings after 1 year, $1.6 billion. We're still massively net positive. And we built enough infrastructure to avoid a total operational collapse. It's possible.
Okay, let's get to work. I want you all to understand that the longevity and survival of this company is completely in your hands. And I trust each and every one of you with it.